If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
And welcome to the K-Files. Glad you're joining us this morning. We have Linda with us this morning as usual. Good morning.
Yes.
I want to take a minute, Linda, to thank our sponsors, because without our sponsors, this would not be happening. Carolina Wiring over on Country Club Drive, thank you so much for sponsoring the program. Statewide Insurance, I want to thank Cheryl Braswell and all of his agents over at Statewide. They're on Country Club as well. Neighbors of Carolina Wiring almost, and Carolina Jewelry, Pawn and Gun. Thank them so much for sponsoring this program. So,
absolutely.
That being said,
sure,
we've got a good show planned today.
We absolutely do.
Got a guest?
Well, let's talk about that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Fighting Crime posted at 6:40 this morning that there was a home invasion in Red Oak, right?
Oh.
So as soon as I saw that, I thought, what did you say about
our guest?
Yeah, what did you say about Jeff Sherrard last week? Remember, or was it week before? You said what? Tell the people, remind the people what you said about him.
I think I said, he. I forgot what I said.
You said that he goes to the calls.
Oh yeah,
every big call, no matter what.
No matter if he's on call or not, no matter if he's off, he just will run to the call, and I bet he ran to that call.
He did. So go ahead and put that picture of Jeff up, because that's all the people are going to see of him today.
Wow.
I saw where Fighting Crime posted about 6:40 that there was a serious home invasion in Red Oak, and then I got a text from the lieutenant about, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes later saying I can't be there. Mm-hmm. So then I started thinking then, okay, so home invasions are usually bad, but if he's not going to be here, it's probably the worst.
Yes,
and
probably not good.
I have since confirmed that is a homicide that they're working in the Red Oak area. I believe on Old Carriage Road. So
Really?
Yeah. So that's what's going on over there this morning. I do have enough information to talk about the case that we were going to talk about with Jeff. Not as detailed or not as much as he probably had for us. But
Right.
I do
That's
have
good.
some stuff.
We'll count on you.
Oh boy, we're in trouble now.
And I'm excited because Lyndall and I have been talking about, and this doesn't bring excitement, no, but I'm just saying, to bring you local cases, we're going to keep you abreast of those as well. We call that Hot and Now.
Well, this is about as
that are
hot now as it gets.
Not, really cold cases, but it's all keeping you abreast of what's going on in your community.
Right.
So we're going to be doing the Rex Lynn Kill
Yeah, absolutely.
trial. When it comes to trial, we'll be following that. We
Well,
have
I mean,
some
that's
interesting things.
yeah. I mean, wow,
because it could be a double.
You throw some stuff out on me. You exactly a double, because not only did is Keel accused of killing his second wife and going to stand trial for that and or plead guilty.
Right.
He also is under suspicion of killing his first wife, who died a few years back, supposedly falling down the stairs. So we'll talk about that. So
Lyndall
like you
and I
said,
are going to go, because I can show you the house he grew up in too,
Yeah.
and another house that him and his first wife lived in.
Y'all dated at one time, is that right?
No, we did not.
Hey, all right. So all right. My father, when I was growing up, I used to watch a bunch of sci-fi movies, Star Wars and whatnot.
You look like sci-fi.
Thank you. My father grew up in the 30s, and I mean, he had a hard life, and he never knew anything about anything like that. But
Right.
every time he saw an ugly-looking monster on the television, he used to always walk through the living room and he'd say, "That looks like one of my old girlfriends." And I heard that every day for my entire life. So
My husband likes sci-fi.
I just made me think of that. So maybe
Stand it.
maybe Mr. Keel was one of your old boyfriends.
No.
Anyway, folks, you heard it here first. Sandra used to date
No.
Rex Keel.
No.
No, what
Not true.
What did folks call him? Lynn?
Lynn.
Okay. All right. What about Mark Boland?
I knew him too.
Okay.
It's getting scary for you,
exactly.
Lyndall. You might need to exit.
Yeah, we're gonna end the conversation about that there. So, absent Lieutenant Sherrard, we are in the second segment going to talk about Randy Colgrove, who was killed in a home invasion outside of Nashville.
Right.
In a very kind of eerie circumstances here.
Right.
But the thing I want to get into first is you asked me, last week we did a review of everything that we've done so far. And I didn't mention Leroy Dunstan, and you asked me about that. So I wanted to go back and I talked to law enforcement again about that. And I wanted
Let's
to
refresh
present
everybody's memory. Which case is it?
Absolutely. Okay, well, let me get to some notes. Mr. Dunstan was playing cards.
I call it the house of cards.
That's right. He was playing cards over in the Gray Street area, right?
Like Gay Street, I
Gay
believe it
Street,
was.
yeah, you're right.
Gay
Street.
Street.
And this was in December of 2017, actually December 23rd to be exact. 44 years old. There's the house there. It's all boarded up now. It's funny, just like in the Orlando Flowers case, a lot of times people get murdered in these houses, they seem to be boarded up afterwards. So anyway, Leroy's playing cards at this house. He walks across the street, which is not directly across the street from where this picture was taken, but actually across Pine Street to where he lived at.
Right.
Right. So he walks across the street. He gets shot. Now we had some. I'm gonna go ahead and say some incorrect speculation about this case early on in our show, and I want to talk about corrections for a minute. A lot of newspapers call them whoa, slow down on that. We're giving that away too soon on that postcard. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But a lot of people, a lot of newspapers, they call them amplifications. They call them clarifications, right? they're just plain simple corrections, right? And so that's what I always own up to my mistakes, because when you do that, you let people know that you're gonna,
That's
you know,
right.
that when you make a mistake, you're gonna let them know. Hopefully, they trust
That's
you for
right.
that. So we had something wrong that led to some speculation on our part. But I was told by family members that his car was not damaged. And you remember we talked about how,
Yes.
Fred, you were in on that too, that if his car wasn't damaged, maybe he was shot somewhere else. And you know,
Right.
we had I was
Yeah, I was trying to figure out, did they put him in the car after they shot him?
Right,
Because his
perfectly-
leg, his foot was
Sure.
hanging out of the car. It was on the ground,
Exactly.
and his body was in the car.
perfectly good reasoning for what the information that we had,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But I talked to law enforcement, and they have made it clear to me that there was no damage to the outside of his car,
Outside the car.
but there was damage on the inside.
So they know then
So-
that he was shot in the car.
Right. He was in the car, he was shot, and then also whoever shot him had to be pretty close to damage the inside of the
Yes.
car, but not the outside of the car.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the change that I want to make clear, you know, that you know, whoever shot him there in his car,
Sure.
so in his driveway across the street,
Right.
from where he was playing cards at. So, also, Fighting Crime gets another mention here today, because she's done something. She's going to start doing this along with Team Cold Case, which is our umbrella organization for all we're doing. But now it's postcard time, because she is taking. Kat has paid to have these postcards right here distributed, mailed out to every resident in that area.
Right.
You know, I mean, that is, you know, police talk about canvassing an area. You know, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't cheap, you know, but that is a way to hit as many houses as you possibly can.
Right.
So that information right there, it's got the basic information, it's got his photograph, it's got the contact number. This is something that she had, Fighting Crime had initiated prior to the whole board and all that stuff. So
Right.
in the future, ones that we'll include will have the Team Cold Case logo and the phone number and all that stuff on
Right.
there. She also did one for Tammy Grady, which we show folks briefly. But I mean, you know, it's a postcard, just like, you know, it's got people. It's like I said, it's got his name on
There
it.
you
There's
go.
Tammy Grady's, and it's got a couple pictures. It's got information about the case, and again, this is, you know, like I said, it's just a postcard. It's going to have some posted on it.
Right.
It's got the picture. It's got the stuff on the back about what happened.
Tammy
And-
Grady was the one that left the heart of Wilson.
You're
Hotel,
right.
correct?
You're right. I'm glad. That's what you're here
I'm
for.
just trying. Well,
no. I mean,
people,
I
we're
get
doing
to
so many
talking.
that I want to know which case
I,
it is.
I do that sometimes in my reporting too.
Because
with
we familiar
Right,
with
right,
them.
exactly.
Because
And
we're
I-
working with them.
I do that in my newspaper reporting a lot, where I'll do a story and then the editor will ask questions, and I'll realize that, you know, they teach you, what little bit I learned in journalism school was that you're supposed to pretend that every story that you write about something is the first time that someone's heard of this.
Right.
So you got to include the basic information
Right.
every time.
That's right.
I don't always do that. 20 years, I'm still goofing up. So you're right. Tammy Grady took a cab away from the heart of Wilson at Wilson on Thanksgiving of last year. Hasn't been seen since. A lot of diabolical stuff involved in that case. Hopefully it'll come out.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Been talking to her sister about it.
Cab driver says he doesn't know where he dropped her off. He can't remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I think the postcards are a wonderful way to reach people.
I think so. Just another resource that we have
Absolutely,
to do
and
this.
we're gonna you know, moving forward with the TCCs, we're gonna look at a lot of the cases that we've done and send these postcards
Yes,
out,
we
because
are.
I mean, you know, there's folks that, I mean, believe it or not, I mean, there's people who don't watch TV. There's people who don't
Oh,
look
yeah,
at
there
who don't
is.
look at the internet, you know, and they live in their own little world, and maybe they do know something, and they're just waiting for something to come in the mail to inspire them to do that. So,
Well, folks, it is anonymous. If you call, there's the number, 406-6736. That's the hotline number. You will not be identified. You do not have to identify yourself. Call in your tip. The reward is up to $15,000, and you do not have to, it is not upon conviction.
right.
It is upon arrest.
Yeah, and that's really important because conviction can take a couple of years.
Yes, it can.
You know?
This is immediate.
This is, yeah. And it can be immediate too, because I know one case that Fighting Crime did last year, we all reported on it. She received a tip in the Deborah Dean's case, and 3 days later the sheriff's department was arresting, the sheriff's office was arresting the suspect in the case. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, that would have been a big payout for somebody. So,
Yes, if you know about any of these cases, Leroy
Absolutely.
Dunston or Tammy Grady or Jeff Cobb or any of the cases we've talked about, please come forward
right.
with a tip.
Yes, ma'am. And like we made clear, and we were talking about in our meeting last week, don't wait for us to talk about it on the show. I mean, if you know
right.
something about a murder that happened if you can hear the sound of my voice and you know something about a murder that happened, call that number and collect some money. Don't wait. Don't wait to hear that specific name.
That's exactly right. But folks, it is your obligation to do so.
Right.
If you know anything about a case.
Yeah, I think so.
So, because we want to give closure to families. That's one of our main objectives with this. Because imagine if you were in that position, you were a family that, the missing persons, you can't get closure. Where is my loved one? Is he alive? Is he dead? Is he,
Yeah, so absolutely, that's what folks need to do, and it's like you said, it's the right thing to do, but it's the money making thing to do.
That's right.
And it goes back to what General Gordon Bray always talks about, the rule of law, that society, and ultimately society is responsible for the rule of law, not law enforcement. So do the right thing, folks. Is that where are we at?
Our phone's
I'm
ringing.
terrible.
Somebody wants to talk to us.
Take it. Let's find
call
out.
back if you'd like. We will take a call. That would be the first time we've ever taken a call on the show.
That's fine. There's a couple people who hate me. Maybe that'll be a couple people. There's a whole lot more than a couple people who hate me.
No, they've already hung up. But it is time to go to break. So let's take our first break. We'll come right back with you on the K-Files.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
Okay, and welcome back. Linda, what do we have
Sure.
next?
All right, we're going to talk about Randy Colgrove.
Yes.
Lieutenant Sherrard was supposed to be here. He's involved in a homicide, home invasion
Unfortunately.
case that happened this morning or last night in the Red Oak area. So that's where he's at. It was going to be a lot better with him here, but I was going to tell a story about the first time that I met him. I had a reporter years ago, old reporter. This is the old grizzly kind of guy. He told me that if you go meet cops, always bring them coffee, He said, donuts don't hurt, but I always bring them coffee. So
Wow.
I do that a lot. And the first time that I met Jeff Sherrard, I was going to talk about the Travis Lynch case. This was probably 2016, the first time I met Jeff. I know you've known him for a long time. So I go in I got 4 McDonald's coffees, and I go in the room, and there's Jeff Sherrard, Jeff Lucas, and David Brake in there. You know, David just retired. He was a major
Yes,
sheriff's
he
officer.
did.
He just retired. Great guy. And I remember I had the coffee, and I was like, I got some coffee. And Jeff was like, I don't want any. And I swear, I think David Brake drank all 4 of those coffees.
Wow.
Well, they knew too, because like Jeff Lucas was like, oh well, David will drink them. You know, and so he was a coffee man. So anyway, that story would have went over a lot better with Jeff here. But I just, one thing that I was going to talk with him briefly about is how, law enforcement are people too. There's a lot
Right.
going on in the news media right now. There's a lot going on in the world right now.
Yes.
About cops. One thing that I've learned is that, they're people too. They get up in the morning,
That's
they say
right.
goodbye to their wife, they go do their job,
exactly right.
and they have to hope that they get home in the evening.
Right.
So we're going to talk about Randy Colgrove. This is one of the few unsolved cases that has happened since Keith Stone's become sheriff, and the reason why there's so few of them is, like we saw this morning, is that they drop everything and everybody jumps on the case.
Right.
So they're, like what they're doing right now, everybody's involved in that, whatever case that is. So
Give us some details
Sure.
of this case, because I don't know anything about this one.
yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I was expecting the lieutenant to have all the details, but I do
Right.
have some. So he was this happened in October 21st of 2017 on the 3500 block of North Carolina 58 near Venerette Road, just outside of Nashville. Right?
Okay.
So some folks, there was a guy that was like stumbling around in the morning, and they were like, what's going on? They called law enforcement, and when law enforcement got there, they realized that this was Mr. Colgrove, who was shot at his house during a home invasion the night before, and he had somehow managed to make it, all the way down his driveway and some distance, I think 200 yards from his house, before he collapsed, and then he died. And the thing about this that stood out to me, I reviewed all the information that I had, and Fighting Crime shared some information. She had his autopsy, and I looked over all of that. And 2 things really stood out to me that I was going to talk to the lieutenant about this morning, and that is, Mr. Colgrove was shot twice. He was shot in the back, and then he was shot in the neck. And the injury to the neck, I can put my eyeballs on, because folks, I'm looking at what you're seeing on the TV right now. I'm looking at on the monitor. That hole about in the middle of his neck, that's the entry wound for the bullet, right? All of that little damage around it, that's what they call stippling or whatever. When a firearm discharges a bullet, there's fire comes out the end of it, and that, if you're at close range, it burns a person's skin. So
Right.
Mr. Colgrove was shot. The gun that shot him was practically at the back of his neck. So I mean, that's sort of an execution style situation. The injury to his back was the same way. I'm not going to show you all the pictures or the drawings of what his face looked like after that bullet came out the front of his face. But he still managed. I mean, this was a tough guy, even though he gets shot in the back and it tore up his lungs.
That's unreal.
He gets shot in the neck and the bullet tore his face up. But he still managed to fight off his attacker and make it 200 yards, and then survived however long that was, survived till morning, because then he died after that.
Wow.
So, was a tough guy. And one thing that, I always talk about, law enforcement solves these cases. There's no doubt about it. All we're doing here is to try to tell a story to help compel someone to call law enforcement.
Right.
But when I look at these things, I'm looking at different things than what law enforcement are looking at. You know,
Right.
they're looking at trying to solve the case. If there's something that doesn't pertain to how to solve the case, oftentimes that, you know,
Right.
they're not worried about that, right? So I was looking through his autopsy. How many pages? His autopsy right here. It says 9 pages, but it's really 8. It's 18 one-sided pages.
Oh,
is his
wow.
autopsy part.
Okay.
And the thing that really stood out to me was that, you know, they always give a description of the clothes that he was wearing. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Colgrove had on a purple wristband. I grabbed a couple out of the car. This is for racing in the street. Some little kid got killed, and this is one from our kid's high school. And I had it back to blue somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. But anyway, he had on a purple one of these, and I didn't know at first. I didn't know what that stood for, right? So I looked it up, and it's Alzheimer's. I know I'm not pronouncing it.
Really?
Alzheimer's
Okay.
research, right?
Okay.
So you know, here's a guy that maybe he was affected by it in his family or whatever. But I mean, he's a guy that cared enough that was wearing that. You know, I mean, to me that kind of stood out.
It's telling.
I mean, yeah, he's somebody. He was somebody who cared about somebody other than
That's
himself.
right.
You know, so and also. Folks really don't like when I say this, but hey, you know, whatever. Most home invasions, and we're gonna talk about another home invasion in the third segment. Mm-hmm. Most home invasions have some sort of drug component to it. Either someone knows that there's drugs and money at the house, or it's really just a drug deal gone wrong. You know, I mean, there's home invasions. Someone randomly picking a home and invading it to steal money doesn't happen very often. It really doesn't. But in this case, that appears to be the case.
Like the case at, was it Whitaker's or Gold Rock, or
Where you?
the 4 people, the 2 couples?
Oh yeah, out that way.
Because they knew what that
They
man
target.
had.
Yeah, he had
That was
guns
a
and
target,
he had
no doubt.
guns and money. They targeted
Right,
him.
and they knew. So that, you're right.
Right. So
of the
most,
time-
yeah, okay. You was out there. What was that near Elms? Not Elm. Whatever. You're right. Out there past Whitaker's in the Halifax line. But yeah, it's home invasions usually are a botched drug deal or somebody's out to steal some drugs and money or whatever. But in this case, this was a legitimate, as far as the police can tell, as far as the investigators can tell, this was a legitimate home invasion where someone just broke into his home to steal to take what he had, and apparently there was he tried to stop him. There was an altercation, and they shot him in the back. Now, I mean that, I hate to speculate because I got it wrong in the Leroy Dunston case, but I mean they shoot him point blank range in the back, and then they shoot him point blank range in the neck. I mean they intended to kill him.
Yes, absolutely.
They intended to leave him dead so that folks, there's the number. I mean, if you know what happened to Mr. Colgrove, or if you know any information about it, please give them a call. Please give that number a call. The information goes right to the law enforcement.
Absolutely. We have a call from General Bray.
Oh.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sandra. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good morning, and use a different phone.
So, yeah, I'm sorry it took so long. We were in the middle of a thought. So, go ahead.
No. As a matter of fact, it pertains to your conversation. The biggest thing about a home invasion is that the person that usually comes in the home, they know what's in there. That means they've been there before.
Right.
That's one of the biggest things, is that very rarely does a home invasion go in without any knowledge of what's happening inside of a home.
Right.
So that's one of the bigger issues.
You're right.
The second piece is one that should tie into your earlier discussion. We're talking about how to determine which cases are solved or not solved. I hope in the future we're going to get one of the folks who've either been a DA or otherwise to come on and let folks kind of look at a case, and let's just examine why one case may or may not go forward, because that's a big deal. Because everybody always wants, just like watching television shows, we always start with the investigators as opposed to bringing it to closure. because that's the decision that's always made by a DA to say, I got enough to convict, because they can't go with enough to suspect. Because
Right.
remember the rules. Once you try somebody, if you lose, it's over, and can't be tried twice. You know, that's the classic OJ piece that was that made everybody say, we look at the same stuff. Well, we're looking at most of the same stuff, but not how it's presented.
Right.
One of the ones that we need to look at is to look at the Mr. Antoine, who we think we've already got in prison, and why we don't just keep going with the other ones around.
What-
Things like that.
That would be a good one for the DA to come and talk about.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah,
would.
I
That
don't
would be
think
marvelous.
we'll ever get
Yeah.
the DA himself to do that.
Right.
To get someone who has been a DA to come in and be able to give the public a look at something, and then give them some cases, and then ask some difficult questions, and that would work for us.
Yes.
I think.
I think that would be great. I think the viewers would really like that. We thank you for calling.
Well, I'm glad to call in because I like the layout and the show. That spray behind the actual entry wound gives you some couple of things, and you could talk about also the exit wounds and show how that plays out in height, where the weapon was held, things like that. It'll help them understand some pieces. But again, back to our real purpose is making sure that people get a chance to think about what happened and keep that rule of law so people step forward.
Right. That's exactly right.
Well, you guys keep it up, and I've already busted my 3 minutes, so I'm gone.
Thank you.
Thank you, General.
Bye-bye.
He's right, and he made a good point that I've kind of skirted around, and that is that in 20 years I've been doing this, almost all of these cases are situations where law enforcement have information. They may not have that last piece that gets them over
Right.
the top, or sometimes they feel that they do, but prosecutors have to win the case.
That's right.
So sometimes they're always like, can you get one more thing? Can you get one more thing? So maybe that's what we can help here.
Right.
and help
Yeah.
them
We'll see if
with
we
that.
can't get a DA, an assistant DA
So,
on.
so the Randy Colgrove case is disturbing because this is a guy that's
Just
in his home,
out of the blue.
gets attacked, gets in his own home, gets shot twice, and has enough fighting spirit to make it about 200 yards
I
from his
can't
home.
believe he even walked
Yeah.
that far.
I know,
Wow.
and like I said, I mean the autopsy drawings, although they're just drawings, they're still not a pretty picture of how Mr. Colgrove ended up. So, if somebody knows what happened to him, again, it's the right thing to do to call law
Absolutely.
enforcement or call the number and let people know what happened.
Yes, absolutely. Well, do we know anything about him personally? Or do we
I
need
do
to
not- I
wait
mean,
for Lieutenant
Yeah,
Sherrod?
I mean,
Maybe he can
I'm
give
sure
us
he'll
more
come. I'm sure
insight
he'll come
into
back.
that.
Yeah, and I do know that he was kind of a private person because there's not a lot out there about him.
Okay.
There really isn't a lot of personal information out there about Mr. Colgrove.
Okay.
So he was just your average everyday citizen living his own life, and then somebody decided to take what he had and killed him for it.
Get an alarm system, people, please.
Good.
So
You're looking at, what are you
Let's
doing? You don't
reiterate.
even know, I wrote down.
let's reiterate where he lived again.
Yeah, he lived in off of
North Carolina 58.
58 off near Venerette Road, just outside of Nashville.
I don't know where Venerette Road is.
Well, I mean, North Carolina 58. I guess it
58.
goes either way. It was the
North.
3500
It'd be
block.
close to Nashville.
Right, the 3500 block of North Carolina 58.
Okay.
And I, like you said, I didn't do a whole lot of research because I thought that the lieutenant was going to help
Right,
us.
that's
with that.
right. And we'll get some more
but the-
information from the lieutenant
but
or
the-
have him back.
You're right. He either lived on this side of Nashville or that side of Nashville. Of course, we know on this side of Nashville is Red Oak.
Right.
And then here we go, Lieutenant Sherrard and the Nash County Sheriff's Office is right back out there in that area.
On Carriage Road in Red Oak.
Right, doing a home invasion with a homicide
It's
this
happening
morning.
too
So,
often, people.
yeah, I mean, and it's the the quadruple homicide that you mentioned out toward Whitaker's, those two fine couples playing cards. I had a police chief tell me one time that homicide is the one crime that you can't predict or prevent. And you talk about, crime, larceny, burglaries, robberies, all these things. You want to protect your family from that, and you can't find a neighborhood that's murder proof.
No.
There's nowhere on this planet that you can go that makes you murder proof, because a lot of times, as we've seen, the person who murders someone might be in your own home. So I mean, it's a crime that can't be predicted, and it can't be prevented.
That's
so
right.
It can only be enforced, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Okay, we're going to take our last break, come back with our local weather, and continue with the K-Files.
Folks, get ready to cry, because this last one is sad. I don't know if I'll even get through.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. We'll be right back.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
Okay, welcome back to the K-Files. What do we have?
Well, let's address that phone call that you took during the break.
Yes.
A nice lady called in and asked, is information on an old, is information too old to be
Right.
reported? And we said absolutely not. That's the whole purpose of this show.
She said she wanted to know if it was a time limit that you
Right.
could report something. No, there is none.
Absolutely not. All right, so really quickly, I wanted to address social media stuff. I'm not a big social media guy. I got turned off from that from another job I had years ago. But my wife convinced me to start a Facebook page in relation to this show. And also, the TCC has also started a Facebook page.
Yes.
So the first one, I guess, is the whichever one you got, Pete. I don't know. Okay, eyeballs. That's the Team Cold Case Facebook page. Folks you can just search it and you'll find it. Team Cold Case. It has any information that we put here on the show. It has on there.
Right.
It has some advanced information, and it follows up on anything that we've talked about.
Right.
So if you're watching the show now, you should really be following that page. Go on there and follow that. The other one is, that's my page there. I used to I ran a blog several years ago, back before Facebook, that actually had more visitors than the newspaper that I worked for.
Wow.
And I got really into that, and then things changed. The makeup of the internet changed with Facebook and MySpace and all, and the Twitter and all that. So I've kind of got back into it now. I made a promise that I was gonna stay away from politics. So that Facebook page is about nothing but unsolved murders. I talk about what's going to be on the show, and then I throw out cases from around the area, because I worked on a lot of cases over the years, and I put those information out there about that, and I've got nearly a 1,000 likes in the last few weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going pretty big. The biggest story that I put on there so far, nearly 100,000 people have looked at it since I put it on there, And that is, there's a lot of folks talking about that poor 5-year-old kid that got killed in Wilson last week. How terrible that was.
A lot of people are disturbed by that.
This case is got some similarities and is equally disturbing to that case. And it seems like this seems to be the home invasion edition of K-Files, right?
Wow, it must be.
How apropos to talk about this. So 5-year-old Katie Lopez was living in Duplin County with her parents, and she's on the living room floor drawing pictures. And I've talked to her family a lot. It's hard talking to them. Let me tell you that. It's hard talking to them. And the guy that investigated this case in 2006, he's now he was up till recently. I don't know, things change overnight, but up until recently, he was the police chief in there in Wallace where this occurred.
Wow.
So he's carried this case with him a long time, right? Okay, so 5-year-old Katie Lopez, she's drawing pictures on her living room floor, right?
Right.
She's drawing pictures on paper on her living room floor. Does that make it sound like she's drawing?
Yeah.
She's not drawing pictures on the living room. She's sitting on her living room floor drawing pictures.
Right.
And she's in her Duke Street mobile home in Wallace with her salt of the earth parents, right? Good, hardworking people. Her dad was a landscaper, right? No trouble with the law, no history, no background, no anything. So they're sitting there, they're watching TV, she's drawing, and 2 men rip open the screen door and just start shooting everybody.
Oh.
And in this barrage of bullets that's going everywhere, the father picked up Katie and tried to shield her from the bullets as he ran out the back door, right?
Oh,
well,
wow.
the bullets hit him in the arm, the rib cage, and the forehead, right? So we're talking about, Mr. Colgrove. It's amazing what someone can survive.
Absolutely.
So he gets shot in the arm, the rib cage, and the forehead, right? He gets out the back door. The 2 gentlemen that had shot up the place leave, right? Then Mr. Lopez looks down and realizes that his daughter got shot in the head, right?
Oh, gosh.
So she's dead. 5 years old, beautiful child, drawing pictures on the living room floor. Guys come in, shoot up the place, injure a lot of people, injure other people, injure the father really good, shoot her in the head, and then law enforcement arrives, they start investigating it. And like I said earlier, a lot of times, and like the general said, home invasions, there's either an element of some sort of drug deal gone wrong, some sort of revenge situation,
Right.
Or someone knows that someone has something in the home.
They've been to the house before.
Right, like the general said, they've been to the home.
There.
Well, these 2 idiots, they meant to go to the house next door.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, they meant to go to the house next door. They got the wrong house.
Oh.
They like I said, they ripped the screen door off the hinges, go in, shoot a bunch of people, realize, we're in the wrong
Imagine
house.
how the people next door feel
Right.
now.
Right. Well, they probably promptly left town really quickly.
They probably did.
So, the law enforcement has absolutely no clues in this case. They don't really even know any identity on the guys, on the attackers, because it all happened so quickly, and they may have been wearing masks. I don't know, but I'm saying that they don't. They know nothing, and it's not through a lack of effort. Because let me tell you, that guy down there is tore up about this and has been investigating this case all the way from patrolman who responded through detective out now up through chief.
Gosh.
And this is the kind of thing that the general, he loves to talk about rule of law. I mean, this is the kind of thing that somebody needs to, I think the first episode of the show, I talked about the death penalty. And it doesn't make it in my political circles. supporting the death penalty is not a popular thing, you know. But I don't really care what anybody thinks. There's a lot of folks that would be dead right now if I had my say in it.
Me
And
too.
and these two fellows are among that group.
Golly,
If
Dave.
you know, I may have said this before, I don't know, but Dewey Hudson was a prosecutor down in Sampson, Onslow, Duplin, I think in Jones County back in the day. And you know, he had a case where a guy raped and killed his mother, his sister, and then killed his little brother. And he went for the death penalty, and the defense attorney said, you know, you're wasting your time. No one ever gets executed in North Carolina, you know.
Right.
And Dewey's answer was, if I don't go for the death penalty in this case, I can't ever go for the death penalty again. And you know, the situation in Wilson, you know, I don't know. I'm told there was some maybe some mental illness involved in that case.
Something was amiss because, I mean, they fed him dinner the night before.
Yeah.
He visited with them. I mean,
So, you know, I mean, and we don't always know. The public doesn't always know, you know,
Right.
what's going on. But you know, in this situation, I mean, these two guys, they didn't care enough to even get the house right. You know, it'd been bad enough if, let's say that Katie's dad was a drug dealer and he did have drugs in the house. I wouldn't
Right.
care. I would still. You don't shoot a 5-year-old girl
That's
to,
just
you know, you don't
terrible.
shoot a 5-year-old girl in the head to get some crack to sell
No.
or whatever.
no.
But these are people that are working the American dream, that are trying to make it in this world. They didn't live in what some people would call the best neighborhood because that's all they could afford.
That's
You know,
what they could afford.
So
That's right.
I would like of all the cases that I've done. I mean, I was trying to count them up the other day. I have a little notebook. I used to write them down in, and I can't. At this point, I really can't keep it. Between the unsolved cases that I've written about over the years, and then, you know, I was a crime reporter in the Jacksonville area for 5 years, and then I've been a reporter all over North Carolina for almost 20 years, and even a general assignment reporter. Even I was a government reporter for several years at the Telegram. You still end up writing about murders because you know
sure.
when they happen,
Yeah.
you have to be, you know, somebody has
That's
to do it.
right.
So, I mean, I really have lost count of how many murders that I've written about. And I try to take, you know, sometimes you get the press release from the police and then you turn it around and you put it out. Sometimes that's due to time constraints on you know, sometimes that's all you can do.
Right. That's
But
right.
most of these cases, almost every one of them, I've tried to at least go to the scene. You know, I've tried to talk to neighbors.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, these cases are more than just paper to me.
Sure.
But, you know, I talked to this little girl's uncle, and, you know, I mean, that family is just wiped out. I mean, here it's.
I'm sure.
How long ago was it? I'm terrible with math, 2016. That would be 10 years. So we're talking 14 years ago or something. And they still, when I posted this story on my Facebook page, it seems odd to even say that, the family started posting on there and was saying, you know, thank you for bringing this back up. It's hard for us to
I'm
go through
sure.
this again, but we need something done in this case. The
Right.
family's just kind of stuck. It's like the Travis Lynch's mom. There I go again. I got to recap, right? Travis Lynch disappeared from Middlesex in Christmas of 2003. Him and his car are both gone. No one knows where they're at. He was last seen with his girlfriend's family. His mother's just kind of stuck in time.
Right.
You know, she has never recovered from his disappearance and his more than likely his
she's
death that
mother.
night.
She
Right.
Never will. There
and-
you go with closure again.
Exactly.
You can't get it.
So that's part of what we're trying to do here is that these families, they need somebody to call and say something, you know, and maybe no one here knows something about this case, but but everybody knows something about something.
Yes, they do.
So,
And I was checking, Lyndall, just to make sure the sheriff's department had not put a notice out
good
about
deal.
before we went off, the Old Carriage Road home invasion that happened early morning, apparently. But I don't think they have so far. They're probably still investigating.
Yeah, they're
still at
they're
the
hard
scene.
at it. And like I said, I mean, they, you know, I mean, one thing that I've learned in all these years of doing this, and I don't care what agency it is, I used to always think that when I was a kid, I always thought that police officers wanted that they joined the police department to be detectives, and that they did the patrol just long enough to get promoted to
Yes.
detective. Well, I had a sheriff tell me about 10 years ago that that's not really the case anymore.
Really?
That a lot of guys that are joining the police department now, they want to be patrol. They want to wear the uniform. They want to drive around. They want to keep. They want to keep the peace, which is great, you know. But to me, what that does is even more so. It makes detective a calling, right? You know, I mean,
Yes.
there's jobs like teacher, newspaper reporter, TV show co-host. There's jobs that just don't pay a lot of money.
Right.
So there's jobs that people do because that's what they're called to do.
They're called to do. That's
And so
right.
these detectives that work these cases, they're working these cases. And I think that a lot of times, you know, when family contacts me and they're frustrated, I think for the most part, the frustration is born out that there's a perceived lack of communication with law enforcement. Or, you know, law enforcement's not keeping them
yeah.
up to date enough on what they're doing, so they feel like they're not doing anything.
Right.
But there's not a case that I've really worked on where, and I mean this. I mean, from Wilmington, Jacksonville to Kinston to Duplin County to Asheboro to Rocky Mount and all points in between. These are cases that law enforcement are working on. But when the public has information that they will not share, there's only so much that law enforcement
That's
can do.
exactly right. That's exactly right. That's the reason we say this show is for you people to, hopefully, as we've said, we beat the drum this morning, to call in tips. But, you know, we want closure for families, as we've said 100 times. And I'd like to speak to some of you out there that are just watching the show. If you want to donate to Team Cold Case, you certainly can, because all the money will be for reward. It will not be given for salaries or anything at all but reward money.
Hey, we were supposed to have information for folks. How do they donate?
Okay. They haven't given it to us yet.
No, we need to have that. as
We
soon as
are
possible.
working on the paperwork. We
Yes.
need to get that.
We certainly do.
Because if you're interested in donating, please call me. You can just give me a call at the station, 446-8857, 446-8857. If you'd like to help, no amount is too small, because all of the money will go towards the rewards.
And it does. Like I was involved in an extremely successful Crime Stoppers program in Jacksonville for 5 years, and they took donations. And I mean, every bit of that money goes to
Yes.
reward money, you know, and we're offering up to $15,000 now, but I mean, that could easily go up. That's money that came from a few business people here in town.
That's right.
That care
That's
about
right.
this stuff. So when the public starts donating, maybe we can get it up even higher.
That's exactly
the
right.
thing
The
is
more
that-
attractive it is, the
Right.
more chance we stand of getting tips.
I mean, there are people out there that know things that aren't going to say anything, but you know,
Right.
maybe $15,000 will
That
make
would
them-
certainly make me think.
right.
So, well, Lyndall,
Well, I mean,
what's on tap for next week? Do we know yet?
yes, we do. The Rocky Mountain Police Department is next. It's the third Thursday. The Rocky Mountain Police Department will be here. I believe it'll
Okay.
be Lieutenant Seifman. You never know. I mean, who they're going to send. It
Okay.
probably will be him. But they've got cases that they want to talk about, and they always bring they bring the goodies as far as crime scene photos and whatnot. So
Okay.
we'll have that next week. I had a very busy Tuesday. I had interviews here in the studio
Yes,
with
you did.
an independent filmmaker. We're gonna, and we're actually he's made a film about what the general talked about as far as the Seven Bridges Road.
That's going to be
cases.
interesting when we get into that.
Right, we're gonna kick it off with interviews with him, and we're gonna show some footage from his film.
Good.
And I spent some of Tuesday afternoon in Middlesex with a guy that trains cadaver dogs.
That's interesting.
And yeah, he has some really cool things to say, and we'll show most of that next week. And so, next week's a pretty packed
Sounds
show.
like it.
Absolutely. And I mean, I thought this show, I got a little scared when Lieutenant Sherrard texted me this morning and said he couldn't
No,
make it. And I was like,
you did great.
and I know, but I want to offer people more than staring at my
Well-
big head all day, for an hour. I mean, that's not
That's
very
okay.
appealing. You talk about making things appealing, looking at me all day is
No,
not,
it's the information that you're imparting that is so important.
Well, I mean,
We've had a lot of interest in the show. We've had a lot of people talking to me about the show and how much they like it, and it's interesting. And we also are going to let you know what's going on in your area, just like this morning. If we had more information, we could give you more information on the home invasion on Old Carriage Road, but at least you know there is one. So know your surroundings, know what's going on. We're going to try to keep you informed of what's going on as far as crime, but this is a mainly cold case. The K-Files is a cold case show, but we will do some hot now news also. So, okay?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, that's all for today. Thank you folks for watching, and we will see you next week.